There's truly nothing better to do than to talk whiskey, and I think we're gonna have a fun one with this because it's also one of my favorite things to do. Not just talk whiskey, but we've got questions for RD1 Spirits R&D Master Distiller, Jarrad Gollihue. Jarrad, welcome in.
Hey, nice to meet you, Jonathan, and to be on the program. I've seen a couple of these. Look forward to being able to talk about what we do at RD1.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, I love We've Got Questions, and I love being able to talk whiskey, and I enjoy what y'all do over there. I've been fortunate to try a few of your different things over the years, being in Lexington. Y'all are in Lexington, and honestly, not that far from where I live. But what led you to joining RD1? Because you just made the move over there just a little while ago.
Well, I guess it's been a little while in terms of whiskey, but I think it's been 8 months if you look at the LinkedIn profile. So what happened was I met RD1 while they were kind of a younger company, and it was while I was at the University of Kentucky being the technical director at the Beam Institute, but also an instructor and researcher. And what happened was RD1 reached out to the Beam Institute at the University of Kentucky and asked my boss if they could do some work with the Beam Institute with a class. So they wanted to host students at their tasting room, which also has a small still in the back, and wanted the students then to produce a product that they kind of set up and went through the production process with. And well, my boss was like, Jarrad, go take care of that. I said, okay, Seth, I'll go take care of it. So I went and met him, and I met Barry Bringer, our national brand ambassador for RD1, and I met with him. And while I was there, Stoops stopped by, the UK football coach, and I was just like, what is going on here? Because I didn't know anything about him either. And so we did the class, and RD1 was super generous. They let 30 undergraduates come use their still, learn how to do some of their first distillation. Their business folks were really generous with their time and came in and talked about making a product and how you would sell it and what would be the niche and things that you need to think about. And this is all going on right after COVID, so you have some of those supply chain issues going on. And it was really a great experience. The students afterwards, many have written me and said that was the best class they had. And it really comes down to RD1 giving an opportunity. Now, we fast forward, and the bourbon industry, like anything else, is a relationship-driven industry. And I always viewed my work at the university as something where I would generate these relationships and help all the producers as much as I could. And a lot of times that was involving getting job postings and then passing that off to my students. Well, for this one, RD1 sent me the job posting, and I wrote back to Joe, who sent it to me, and I said, hey, I'm going to do what you asked. I'm going to send it to my students, but I'm also going to apply for it. So... And I didn't really get a reply back. I think it surprised them. And then I got an email from them, and or a phone call just kind of out of the blue. And it was during the middle of doing two of the least enjoyable things of the academy. I was grading video presentations and writing a research paper on oak tyloses. And they were like, will you come do this? Like, it wasn't like will you think about it? And I was like, well, let me get some questions. I'm not in that headspace. And, we had some conversations for about a month, and I was like, no, I'll come do this. This sounds great, because they're really wanting to focus on flavor and pushing things forward and being bold in bringing bourbon kind of to that next place of trying new things.
Well, it sounds like it's a perfect fit, and like I said, I've been fortunate enough to try some of their products and how they've been able to kind of rebrand themselves or kind of maybe bring the focus in a little bit more on what they're doing is pretty fascinating. And they're getting a new space here in Lexington, and that's where your role will be based at, is the RD1 distillery at the Commons there in Lexington. When you're driving along Leestown Road, look to your left when you're crossing the railroad tracks, you'll see where that building is going. So what will you be doing exactly in your R&D master distiller role?
So I actually oversee a couple different things. Right now, I'm overseeing new wood finishes, and we have some new wood finishes that I had my hands in creating actually at our gift shop right now. So that's something that'll continue going on. I bring in woods from all around the world and see what's going on. and then do some unusual things to wood too, because from the graduate school background of learning how wood flavor influences whiskey, I can do that. But as far as what we're going to be doing there, I was telling someone the other day, it's like I've been reading about distillation and fermentation techniques that vary across the world for the last 10 years. And we can try all sorts of strange things that you would never want to do in like a large distillery because the risk would be too great. So I'll be doing some of like those kind of bold things. And what will be nice is this site is purely for research and development. We're not so much interested in pumping out tons of barrels, because our bulk production is taken care of by Jacob Call and Western Kentucky Distillery. And anything that we find that's going to be great on our small distillery, we're going to then take down to Western Kentucky, where we can try to scale that up. So it's really going to be, pushing the envelope, trying new things. We're not interested so much in what's been done in the past. We want to respect that tradition, but we want to try to push past that and see if we can find something better. Because one of the cool parts about being a teacher at the university is that I had my students do research projects on alcoholic beverages from all around the world, and where I was grading those, I saw some things that other places do that I'm like, that's kind of cool. So we'll bring that in. And the other part with the new facility, I'll be doing some interactions with tours and doing a lot of the education with our distillers and then our tour guides. I'm bringing that same educational background that I had, and hopefully teaching all of our staff, so you get like a high level overview of everything that's going on.
Well, yeah, because you guys, like you said, you're doing a lot of different things that people might not always understand when it comes to those unique finishes. And like you said, at that space, you're also helping lead the build out there too. So what can folks really expect when it's up and running, hopefully in early 2025? Because it looks magnificent from when you're driving by. It looks like it's going to be a really cool spot.
Yeah, that whole campus is going to be neat, and it's I've done one kind of distillery build out where I was on the peripheries with the University of Kentucky's distillery, but being on it from the inside, working with construction folks, is a completely different ballgame. But it's going to be really neat to get out there and see, because there's going to be like a music venue and there's going to be a bunch of restaurants. In the distillery space proper, though, we're going to have a really neat cocktail bar up top, and then the hope is for, like, as far as the distillery interacting space is that you'll be able to learn a lot, and you'll be able to talk to us and kind of really get into the nitty gritty of it. So understanding, why we're cooking the grains at a certain temperature. We're just going to be honest about that kind of thing going forward. That transparency of that. We're also going to have what we're calling a wood science area, where you can check out some of the different wood finishes and what those kind of pieces look like, and we're talking about ways of letting people experiment with those themselves. So there's some really unique experiences we want people to be able to have, and then also be able to try some of like the cutting edge stuff that comes out just through the tasting room. So we're already doing a little bit of that right now. So like right now, on Manchester Street, where our tasting room is, we already have a smoked maple finish that we just did, and there's no artificial or anything. It was just me taking what our normal maple finish is and smoking that insert with old bourbon barrel staves, and it's made a really balanced product that's really fun. And then we have another wood that we've brought in recently called balsamo, which is another South American wood. And I have a feeling if it's also like Ambrona, it's like nothing anyone's ever had before. So,
Well, I love to hear that, because it's fascinating. And we've got questions for RD1 Spirits R&D Master Distiller Jarrad Gollihue. And Jarrad, you talk about this. You were able to work at the university, learn a lot of different things, a lot of research that even yourself did. Like you talked about, whether that was your thesis on oak, different things like that. You have a love of distillation science. Where does that love and fascination and wanting to learn more about it come from?
well, I really like flavor, and I was always interested in flavor. But it's kind of rooted in a couple different things. So one thing is that distillation is a science, but it's also a craft. It involves an artisan approach to it, and when you combine those two things together, it's really great. And what makes this whole area and this industry really exciting to me is that we get to represent Kentucky, if you think about it, because we're shipping this product of bourbon whiskey all around the world, and we get to highlight an aspect of our culture that goes overseas. Like people all around the world know Kentucky for a few things, and bourbon is one of those. And that's special if you think about it. Not everyone gets to have that experience of being able to share their home. So to me, it comes down to I like flavor, and you can do some really crazy things with distillation to get some fun flavors out of it. But then you get that whole thing of being able to do an artisan craft that then you could share with the world. So that's how I look at it. That's what makes it so special. That sharing and the love of a place.
Well, I was going to say, for you, what is your favorite part of the process when it comes to creating, the bourbon? Is it finding the right barrel? Is it that unique grain, that unique process? Or is it just kind of the whole thing? Because it can be so different at times.
Well, I'm going to respond with something a little different that's more on our brand. But right now, I've really enjoyed doing our wood finishing. I know that cop out, but it's true. What's fun is that we're looking at so many different woods that I've been able to bring in, and we'll be bringing those products out as we think that they're appropriate. You get to see that you start with our base whiskey and you start doing additional wood finishing, and the flavor profiles profoundly change with just the addition of a little bit of wood. In some cases, we're not talking about more than a handful of grams, and it just completely changes the way the rye spice hits. We had a wood the other day on our finishing trials that actually changed how the flavor arc moved. So instead of getting a strong bourbon taste right at the beginning, it was quiet at the beginning and then got louder at a crescendo. And that was just playing with that wood finishing right now has been really fun because nobody else gets to do that in the same depth that we do. Now the rest of it's exciting, and I have notes on grain and fermentation and using weird yeasts and strange fermentation times, and those will be fun to play with in the future. But right now it's the wood. The wood is the fun part.
Well, I was gonna say that is what RD1 does, and you guys have been able to put out some really cool releases, and like you said, you're going to be able to get to do a lot of that. So, what are you hoping to accomplish at RD1 while you're there, and kind of be able to maybe show off some of those new things?
For me, I want to really make things that are interesting, premium products. Things that people go, I've never tasted that before. It's unique, and then try to push the envelope of it. Now. There'll be some other products that'll come out later that'll be fun to mess with. We did a single barrel this last year of blackberry wine finished bourbon, and that was super exciting. And customer bought that one before I was even ready to release it to the TTB. Like they were just like, we want it. I'm like, okay, well, I got to figure out something else for the fall now. So that's the kind of fun stuff I like to do. I'm starting a cask exchange program with different producers around Lexington where I'm like, I've got empty barrels, fill it with things, then send it back. I'm going to refill it with whiskey. So to me, it's really just getting a chance to make novel flavors and make something that's really special. When you share a bottle of whiskey with somebody, it should be something memorable. And our hope is that when you crack into the things that we're producing, you're like, wow, that's a great flavor, and I'm getting to share this with people I love. That's what I hope.
Well, I think so far you guys have been able to do it, and like I said, I really can't wait to see what you're able to do as things get more online at the new distillery and things like that. But what can you tell us that doesn't get you in trouble, or maybe it does? I don't know. We'll see how you're going. That is coming out. That is unique because, like I said, you guys do some different stuff. Yes, you have your traditional bourbon, but you also have the Amberana finish, the maple finish, different things like that.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, right now in the tasting room we have that smoked maple, which people are saying is really good. It's a real balance of smoke and maple. We have that balsamo, which is, I can say I don't think anybody else on the market has one of those, and that's at the tasting room for the fall and winter. And then right now I can say, I just got the okay on it, was I we're gonna have a 10-year-old Amberana that'll be out for the fall and the winter as an LTO release, and this is a little bit different than our other Amberana. So our other Amberana you guys reviewed, and it seemed like you really liked it. This
Yep.
one is we paid respect to the age statement. So this is a 10-year-old base whiskey with Amberana in it, and we set out with the thesis statement in it that we weren't going to overpower this whiskey with Amberana because it's 10 years old. It's a great juice. We wanted to make sure that we were going to respect that. So it's a good whiskey with really traditional dark leathery notes that you would expect of something that old. And then there's an Amberana kind of on the top. It was a fun product to make, although it did put about 1,000 miles on my truck as I was running between the office and the warehouse. So
It sounds like a good problem to have, but I love that, and I think that goes to show your ability of, yes, you can go all different ways with these flavors, but at times, that's only one component. You want to make sure that the main maybe component of all of this is the juice that is in the bottle gets to shine as well.
yeah, it's one of those ones that you have to make a call on it because there's some woods that we've played with that we could make it to where it's really just a strong extract and expression of that wood, and how much of those whiskey notes do you want coming through? And we've had one wood in particular I'm thinking of that it didn't matter how little we put in, it took over the whole thing. It was like, well, this one's probably not for us, but we tried. But we spent a lot of time screening these woods and then also getting down to the grams per liter of wood per liter of whiskey to make sure that the flavor profile's right.
Well, like I said, Jared, it sounds like you guys have some really really cool things in store. Like I said, the new
I'm not
facility, I
quite
can't
sure
wait
how
for
to
it to
help you
open
with
up in
that.
early 2025. And if you have the time right now, swing by the Distillery District in Lexington and check out their tasting room there. And Jared, man, I appreciate the time and can't wait to see what you got coming next.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me.